Hi, and welcome back to Purple Color Life. In today's video, this is going to be the last of the Tractor Decision Series videos for this fall. We can always add to them in the future, and I've actually started a playlist called the Tractor Decision Series. So hopefully these videos are helpful for those who are looking at tractors in the future. But this video today, and a question I often get, is what size tractor do I need? When you start thinking about what size tractor you need, you really have to take some things into consideration. And of course, the first one is, what are the tasks that you're going to be doing with that machine? If you need front end loader to do loader work, you're going to need to know how much weight you're going to need to lift. If you need the 3-point hitch to lift implements, you're going to need to know how much weight you're going to have to lift. If you're going to be using PTO to power implements behind your machine, you're going to need to know how many horsepower you need to power those implements. You're also going to need to know the size physical of the machine that you need. Do you need a certain amount of weight as ballast for using that front end loader or for having something on the 3-point hitch? Do you need a certain size width because you've got narrow trails and you've got to make it through the woods? So there's a lot of things to consider when you talk about the size of the tractor. And it's only gotten more complicated in the last 5 to 10 years. And let's talk about why. Generally speaking, it used to be that the size of the tractor was directly proportional to the horsepower that machine had. So the bigger the tractor, the more the horsepower. When you think about those big 4-wheel tractors you'd see on the largest of farms or combine machines, they usually had high amounts of horsepower. And then the smaller that physical tractor got, the lower the horsepower. That's not always the case anymore. In our diesel versus gas engine tractor decision video, we talked about that 25 horsepower limit. So anything over 25 horsepower has to have the diesel emissions control systems on them. And then a lot of people are trying to stay in that under 26 horsepower range. So what's happened is tractor companies like John Deere have created larger size tractors that are still under 25 horsepower. So for example, you can get a John Deere 3 Series tractor with a 25 horsepower engine. So you're getting a really big chassis, lots of weight, you've got loader capacity, you've got 3-point hitch capacity, but when it comes to PTO horsepower, you're limited to that of the 25 horsepower engine. So like I said in the beginning, it's really going to depend on what tasks you need to do. Let's say you're considering that John Deere 3 Series tractor with a 25 horsepower engine. So with that particular machine, you'd have the advantage of a 3 Series tractor weight. So anything you're towing, like a hay wagon or machines behind you, you've got all that tractor mass to keep you on the ground and tow something heavy. You've also got that tractor size for front end loader capacity. So you're getting the 3 Series loader capacity benefit of the 3 Series size. Same thing with the 3-point hitch. You can lift heavier weights at the back than say a 2 Series or a 1 Series. But when it comes to things attached to the PTO, so if you're thinking about a rotary brush cutter, if you look at the specs for a rotary brush cutter, a lot of them say over 30 horsepower or over 40 horsepower or over 70 horsepower. So those are the kind of things you need to think about. You'd be getting that 3 Series size tractor, but you wouldn't have the horsepower necessary to run a big brush cutter. So when you start talking about the size of a tractor, a lot of people will say, hey, it's better to go too big than too small and not have a machine big enough to do the things you need to do. There is some logic behind that, but there's another consideration, and that is the bigger you go, the bigger your machine. So you can see here I've got the John Deere 2210 lined up on its left-hand side with our Ford Workmaster. You can see there's quite a bit of difference in width here. So there's a lot of places I could go with my John Deere 2210 around a house, pretty close in between buildings. This can go in between our garage and our house. There's enough room for this width to fit in between there. The Ford Workmaster, quite a bit wider, will not make it in that same place. And the same thing happens in the woods when you're working. There are sections of the path and trees that I can get between with the John Deere 2210 that I cannot get between with the Workmaster 641. So you got to consider, yes, there are benefits to a larger machine, but there are also downsides like storage in a building, storage in your garage, height necessary if you're talking about a bigger tractor with a cab. Those are things to think about, that it is possible to go too big. The other issue is this you can haul on a landscaping type trailer, whereas the Ford Workmaster, you're looking more at an equipment trailer or a car hauler to be able to haul that. So there's a difference there also. But there's also a flip side to that coin. So when I've got a load on the front end loader of this machine and I am on any uneven ground, a lot of times I wish this machine was wider, because its stance is pretty narrow, great for those tight spaces, but not so great when you've got a load on and you feel a little bit uneasy side to side. So that's another thing to consider when you're thinking about a narrow machine. And that's another reason that some people will consider upgrading to the, for example, John Deere 2 Series or 3 Series tractor for that stability of the additional width, bigger tires, wider tires, more room for ballast, more fluid fill in those tires. So we've talked about the advantage of that under 26 horsepower range when it comes to a diesel engine. There's also a great advantage to being over that level. So this Ford Workmaster has over 40 horsepower, somewhere between 40 and 48 horsepower in the engine. That means we've got quite a bit of PTO horsepower more than the John Deere 2210. So behind this machine, I can run the big 5-foot rotary mower, the 5-foot finish mower, a rototiller. These are the types of PTO implements that use power from the engine that I cannot run behind my John Deere 2210. The John Deere 2210 has about 23 horsepower and its PTO horsepower is under 20. So I can't run that 5-foot rotary cutter, I can't run a rototiller that is that big, and I can't run our 5-foot finish mower behind that machine. It's just too much for that engine. You can see here the inside of these rims on the Ford Workmaster do have wheel weights, and that is because with the brush cutter on the back of this going up an incline, it is possible for this front end to get a little bit light. So the weight helps with that. So even if this PTO shaft did put out enough horsepower to, let's say, do a 5-foot rotary cutter, we would have the issue of this tractor not being heavy enough to safely support that long weight back behind us. First of all, I'm not sure we'd be able to lift it very good, but second of all, there'd be a lot of weight on the back and not enough weight on the front. It would be a little tippy going up an incline. We're also not very wide. So the same thing on an uneven surface. If you're at a slope, you might feel pretty uneasy on a smaller machine like this. The other thing you might find is that over time your needs might change. When I bought this John Deere 2210, my needs were a little bit different than now. I would say for my needs today, this is a little bit undersized. But when I bought it, I needed it for mowing. So it does have the mid-mount mower that's stored in the building right now. So it was a good size to both mow and use for some front end loader work. What I need it for now, though, is more firewood. So we're lifting those IBC totes, and you've seen in several videos in the past, this machine cannot lift an IBC tote full of Pennsylvania hardwoods, oak, cherry, hickory, maple. That stuff is just too heavy when you're doing a full IBC tote, 330 gallons, with this front end loader. Since we have the Toro TIMECUTTER zero-turn mower, I don't do very much mowing with the John Deere anymore. In fact, I think in the last 2 summers, the mower deck has only been on here once. But there is a lot of brush hogging to do, and the John Deere 2210, like I mentioned, not big enough to operate our Woods M5 brush hog. So that's why we have the Workmaster. So the nice thing about having a second machine that's a little bit different size than the first is that it lets you do different tasks. The Ford Workmaster lets me run that M5 Woods brush cutter behind me. It lets me really fill up the big tool rack with firewood. It's just got a lot more power. It also has, like we mentioned in the tire video, these nice big lugs for digging through the mud, which we have plenty of around here at Purple Collar Life. So like I said, when someone asks the question, what size tractor do I need? There should be a lot of follow-up questions. How much do you need to lift on the front? Are you lifting round bales, square bales? Do you need to be able to lift 1,500 pounds up there, 2,000 pounds, or only 500 pounds? How much do you need to be able to lift on the 3-point hitch? How far back is that load going to be behind the tractor? How much PTO horsepower do you need? How much engine horsepower do you need? What physical weight of the tractor do you need? Do you need it to be a certain weight so you can haul it? A certain weight so that it's safe for your implements? Those are all things to consider. And you might find yourself in a situation like me, where maybe you need 2 different machines for different tasks. Or maybe there's a happy medium. Maybe you find yourself a 39 horsepower like a Kubota 3901, something used like that, where it's got the horsepower you need and the size you need without being overly heavy. It's got some front end lift capacity, it's got some 3-point hitch lift capacity. So there are those medium-sized tractors that might be good for a homeowner. What always cracked me up about the John Deere series when they were advertising them, they said the 1 series was for a 1 family, 2 series was for 2 families, 3 series was for 3 families. But when you think about chassis size, it's nice to know 1's the smallest, 2's in the middle, 3 is the biggest, there's a 4 series, there's a 5 series. So as you get into more agricultural needs, you're going to get into that 4, 5 series, or even bigger than that. So if you're looking at your needs and you're a person like me and you're at a point like I'm at right now where you're thinking maybe this equivalent to a John Deere 1025R today is a little bit too small, I want some bigger tractor, but I am worried about that diesel emissions regulations over 25 horsepower. I like that John Deere now has a 2 series and a 3 series in that 25 horsepower range. I like machines like the Coyote CK2610 that has that under 25 horsepower engine and a larger body. You've got the RK25 machine. You've got Kubota's machines that are the bigger chassis with the smaller engine now. So those are things to consider if you're in that size range like that. If you're thinking, I need bigger, I need more PTO horsepower, then you're going to have to go into one of those diesel tractor sizes that are going to have the tractors that have to regenerate and have the emission systems in them. So if you're one of those people asking the question, what size tractor do I need? Start doing that research. Think about the tasks that you need to do and what you're going to ask of that machine. If you know you're going to be lifting round bales, you know that you want a tractor that has a front end loader that can easily lift 1,500 pounds. If you need to use heavier equipment on the back, make sure you know what you need to lift before you decide what 3-point hitch is the right size for you. If you know you're using PTO implements that need 40 or 70 horsepower, make sure you get a tractor with an engine appropriately sized for those jobs. We've all seen those pictures or videos online of people who are doing things with the wrong size machine. Plenty of people who do way too much with too small a truck, for sure. I've seen loads in a truck or trucks towing fifth wheels that have no business hauling that much weight. The same thing with tractors. You want to get the tractor that is appropriately sized for the tasks you need to do. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative and helpful, please give us a big thumbs up. Hopefully you enjoyed this tractor decision series week. There'll be more of these coming up in future years. If you've got ideas for topics I should cover in tractor decision weeks, leave those comments down below. Maybe we'll throw a video in between now and next September if we've got a topic that a lot of people are asking about. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again the next time.